Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hello Velocity podcast, where we help corporate women level up without burning out. I'm your host, Brittany Kanaski, leadership coach and trainer here at Hello Velocity. And today we're joined by Ann Asher to discuss how stress can impact our physical well-being while working. So Ann Asher is a health coach, personal trainer, yoga instructor, and workstation wellness consultant. She has 25 plus years experience helping people feel better physically and mentally. For over a decade, Ann was also an award-winning health journalist for a large website owned and operated by the New York Times Company. Her beat was spine and chronic pain management. Thanks for joining us today, Ann.
Thanks so much, Brittany, for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited for our conversation today. And I know when we first connected about this too, I had plenty of stories to share with you of how I've been learning the hard way, I think, through this journey over the last 10 years or so of working in corporate and sitting in a desk all day. So I'm really excited to share your insights today with the audience.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd love to start by just hearing more about your journey of how you became a workstation wellness consultant, because that's honestly a term I've never heard of before, and I would love to hear how you got there.
Well, ultimately, I started when I was 17 and I learned how to dance. And that opened up my world because I was very unfit when I started dancing. I was 50 pounds overweight, and dance just opened up my world. So I got very interested in yoga and nutrition and just anything and everything that was available. And it was a very, very long time ago. So that meant there wasn't as many resources as there are now. And so over the years, I evolved and chose the career of, at first it was body work and massage therapy, and I worked in clinics and for sports teams and in the physical therapy, chiropractic, and in my own practice. And I mostly saw people with chronic pain and also athletes. And so I got a really great result and was also at the same time studying these, I guess you could call them esoteric techniques, as most of the world has not heard of many of the techniques that I use. And so I was able to evolve them for people in pain. And then I also, when I was, I should go back just a little bit. And right after I graduated high school, or somewhat after I graduated high school, I lived in New York and studied dance because I wanted to be a dancer, but it just didn't work out. I was one of those people. And so I had to do temp work, and I sat in desks in corporations, and I must say, I really didn't enjoy it. And very emphatically, I did not enjoy it at all. And so when I started kind of evolving the next phase of the movement career many years later, after I taught Pilates for a while as well. And so I like to mix things, and bring them to people in a form that's good for each individual. I could partially intellectually, I got like, how can I, enjoy the mental activity of taking the pain techniques that work so well because they're based on, can you get your body in good alignment, both from the outside, which is like your desk, etc., in your chair, and even your exercises, but also from the inside with some techniques that you and I have spoken. We might share that today. And how can I evolve that for people who sit at desks? Because I have compassion for anybody that has to spend those 8 hours like this, especially when you're in an office and a boss is looking at you and you're not allowed to get up and turn the music on and dance for a few minutes and just shake off, any stress or anything like that. And so I wanted to help people with the techniques that I know because they're so wonderful. So that's how it got started. And I got the certification. I learned how to do the height adjustment for your standing desk and the chair adjustments and do the evaluation and things like that. So that is also part of what I do. But I am very focused on what they call somatic techniques, which is about the body. So,
yeah, interesting. I love that your journey included being one of these people sitting at a desk and knowing firsthand how difficult it can be, and then how you can bring your passion for movement, into building this really interesting career and helping other people too. That's wonderful. Yeah. So how do you see that your work relates to stress and burnout? Because that is our theme for this season of the podcast: stress, burnout, overwhelm, and how it impacts people working on a daily basis.
well, in so many ways. And the first one, a lot of this is my opinion, but it's formed. I do read research too, but The first one is that we do not move, even when we have standing desks. We really don't move enough because the body is a movement machine. It was constructed for movement. Um, and so when we, in our technological age where we just have a gadget for everything or a piece of software for everything, we have given up kind of our birthright of movement, which I get very passionate about because I know how much movement can enliven a person. Like you yourself had told me, when you were having some back pain, I think it was, right? Or was it hip pain? I don't remember. These certain types of exercises helped you so much. And so anyway, we don't move. So we absolutely need movement. And even when we get the best quality furniture, the desk, the chair, and we've got the right one. My favorite is Human Scale, but that's a discussion for a different day. It's a really good quality brand. Um, those are great. They help us. This is again my opinion, but they help us to have good alignment, which is the key. This is the key in my pain business. When people got their bodies aligned, like 80 to 100% of their pain would be gone, like within a month. And some of these cases were very, very serious. The medical system couldn't help them. So it's good to have good equipment, but that is so not the full story. The real deal is movement. Movement is the healer. Movement is the nutritious snack. Movement is the thing that keeps your brain from fogging up. And we just can't get enough of that when we commit ourselves to a desk all day. So that depletes the energy the brain gets. And then there's the habits. So I think, a lot of us, and I'm guilty of this too, because I have an online business, right? And there's so much you have to do behind the scenes. But many of us, when we sit down to work or we stand up to work, especially when we sit down, though, is we park our bodies so that we can use our minds. And then the body just checks out. So it's lack of movement, but it's also an attitude. And so when your muscles are still going to tighten up because you're putting some muscles in a shortened position. Um, and then it's just like sending your body away for 8 hours every single day of your life, every work day of your life, And so there are these habits that we develop that just cause us to narrow our focus just to things that are on the screen. And I'm overdoing that, but I know you know what I mean. And then the third thing is gravity. So gravity is this force that takes everything that's on Earth and anchors it into the earth, right? Including our bodies. And so when we sit at a desk and we park our bodies to use our mind, so to speak, and we don't have really an attitude towards the posture, except maybe if you were smart enough when you got your chair and your desk to actually set it up, which most people do not do. They pick it on color and expect it all to work perfectly out of the box. Other than that, gravity will pull us down. And if we don't have that attitude towards what is my alignment and a little bit of curiosity about what is body alignment and how can I keep myself well aligned during the day and feeling comfortable and, that sort of thing, gravity will take whatever we're giving it and just pull it to the ground. So that ends up being like this, shoulders rounded over, neck kinked so we could see the monitor, right? And then the brain, which is the master controller of posture, it has this tendency to say to itself, it doesn't really say it, but it does it like this. You're hunched over and you're kinking at your neck. So the brain doesn't really know why you're kinking at the neck, like to see the monitor. It's like a lesser important thing, but you're hunched over and you're kicking at your neck. I guess you like that position. You've been doing it for so long. So I'm going to make it really easy for you to do even more of that. And so day in and day out, year in and year out, this develops unless we can intercept it with techniques that we can fit into our schedule and that fit the body. So it's not always this big punch pow workout at the gym that's going to do it. Sometimes that helps. Exercise is good, but I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on that and are not looking at how to understand the posture and work with holistic techniques that can undo tensions that you don't need and then restore it with good alignment.
Yeah. I love the way that you're putting it of how we're checking out from our bodies for 8 hours a day. And I've never heard that expression before, but honestly, it's definitely what I see and what I've experienced too myself. And especially when I was in corporate, and I remember those days when I was so stressed out and I was so busy, and I'm just sitting at a desk for 8 hours, and sometimes more than 8 hours too. That I think that's part of this probably, is that when people are stressed, when they're burnt out, they're usually working even longer hours or also on the weekends. But when you're sitting there for so long and it's like you're rushing to get things done and you're like, okay, one more email. I,
Right.
I do remember that feeling of just like being totally checked out from my body. It's like I wasn't even eating when I was hungry. I wasn't going to the bathroom when I had to go to the bathroom. I was just like, power through, keep going. Like, like you said, like your mind is kind of taking over, and it's just keep thinking, keep doing, keep working. And you're not even stopping to slow down to say, oh, I can walk away and have a snack because I'm hungry, or I need more water. You're not checking in with your basic bodily needs, which again, at such a basic level, like that sounds so harmful. And I remember I would do it all the time.
And when you say checking with bodily needs, it sounds like, your corporate world really affected you. And I would offer as a, I don't know if it's an antidote, but to thinking of it as tuning into body sensations, because not only will that say, okay, I'm going to take a break for a minute, which is very important, of course, especially in things like water and eating and eliminating, but also just sensing, how's my neck today? Is that feeling free, or is there some extra tension? Or, maybe I could just do a little shoulder roll and dekink that. Or am I sitting right on top of my two sitting bones on the seat? Or am I like, you know, one hip's out and the other one's slouched? Those little things that you can do require an attention to body sensations. So a lot of my work, I start people out not with exercise. People expect me to give them heavy duty exercises, but I'll start with things like placement, like we just talked about, and breathing. And that can do so much in such a short span of time and in a small space, especially when we can work from home. A lot of bosses or whatever, I don't know how they actually check these days, but you can do a lot without people noticing that you're doing it,
Right.
self-care on the sly. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I know you've definitely mentioned alignment a few times, and I know a lot of people have probably heard the very basics of like desk posture, alignment, and the proper way to do it, but I'm sure there's still a few people listening who haven't heard that. So would you mind giving maybe that quick overview? You've mentioned a few already, I know, especially like the hips. That's one I actually hadn't heard of before, and I'm already like checking my hips as I'm sitting, like, okay, how is that? It's great just to hear it. So yeah, what are some other parts of our body that we need to be checking in from an alignment perspective?
Okay, yeah, let's go through it. Let me start by saying, let's think about the whole body first. And the whole body is made of joints. So bones come together. Usually there are two bones that come together and there's a space in between where movement happens. Sometimes there's three bones, but just the idea that bones come together, there's a space between them and movement happens there. And muscles will cross over that space. And those are the muscles that serve that joint. So when we can be in alignment, generally speaking, that helps the muscles around the joint to have balanced action. So balanced strength and flexibility, not one side. Like when you're sitting all day, the muscles, the quadricep muscles and the hip flexors get really tight because, again, we're not moving. So we're not standing up and doing, I'm sorry, you can't see me this way, but
Oh, yeah.
hips extension, things like that.
Mhm.
So just to know that, why we're doing it is we want to balance the action of the muscles around the joint. But one of the very most powerful ways to do it is to be in good alignment at each joint. So when we're sitting, we want to have our underside of the pelvis. So have you ever been to a game or sat on a wood stool and these bones under your bum, they hurt after
Yeah.
5 minutes or so? Those are two bones, right and left, and they live on the underside of the pelvis. And we want to have them, we want to be right on top of them. That affects the low back because, again, everything is connected from that place, the pelvis. The spine wedges in there. And so as the pelvis is bigger than the spine, like bigger and more powerful generally than the spine. So whatever the pelvis does, if it's tilting forward because you're very stoic and you're not going to use the backrest of your chair, and then your back muscles tighten up. That's one way they'll take the back muscles and tighten up. Or if you're a sloucher, which I tend to do, you're sitting on more on the very bottom of your spine and not on those bones, that actually is even more dangerous because it can over time affect discs, and you don't want to mess with that. So we want to be on top of those two bones, and ideally, and some people have already built up certain patterns of muscle tension and um, I guess I wouldn't call it mobility. I would call it like overstretch in muscles in the pelvis that it won't be possible to be perfect at this in the beginning. But you also want to have the right and left sitting bones, like your weight distributed equally between the right and left sitting bones. Okay. It's good to give ourselves grace and space and time for these things that if we could practice it even for 10 seconds, 1 or 2 times a day and do that for 2 weeks, you'd probably notice really wonderful differences rather than, getting all worried about it, going to the gym, do this heavy duty workout, and then you don't have time or energy ever again. Like that's not as useful, So this is like a habit development. So we have the pelvis on the underside of the pelvis, nice and set level on the seat of the chair. The knees are bent at about a 90-degree angle or a little bit wider. Feet are flat on the floor, toes pointed forward. Hips are also in an angle that's between 90 degrees and about 120. In that range, research has shown that's best for the back. 90 degrees is really hard for most people. Even people that are trained in gymnastics and dance, they can't do that for a long period of time. Also, before I get further up, this idea of grace and space is that we want to definitely take breaks. I don't feel like this is something you have to glue yourself to and hold this tension in because it's correct. Like they have these keywords out there. I'm looking for posture keywords. I'll say correct posture, but that is a misnomer. We are humans. We are living. We are breathing. And so the body loves to contract the muscle and then relax when the movement or the posture is no longer needed. So we want to give that some grace and space and say, okay, I'm going to do this placement. I'm going to feel what it feels like, tune into my body sensations. Maybe I'll get involved in my work and go back to the bad posture. I don't even know, I'm so busy. And then you might get some water and remember, or you might have a reminder in your cubicle and then, okay, I'm going to put myself back in there. Like if you've ever meditated, that's what they always say. They say, if your mind wanders away, just bring it back. And you don't have to get all upset with yourself. We're learning, we're developing, right?
Yes, love that.
And so we place the lower body into the positions of least joint strain, which can help everything. And then again, the spine wedges into this pelvic bone is made of a right and left side, and they join together. And the spine wedges like a Roman arch, like a keystone of a Roman arch. And all of that helps it stay together as a unit in the pelvic area. And so whatever the pelvis does, the spine follows. So in this case, I like to tell people when you're sitting in an office chair that you would have a lumbar support that is provided by the office chair, or you make one yourself and you put it in the low back area, the small of the back, because because we're sitting all day and we're not moving and sort of making an effort and then coming back, and which the body is very familiar how to realign itself in those kind of situations. The lumbar support piece will help keep the muscles from over tightening, and it will help with the posture education because you're having a little bit of a sensation of some lumbar support in the small of the back, which is generally where it belongs. And people should experiment to see what really works for them, but that's usually what they say. You do want to use the backrest, not all the time, but it's okay to relax. That is why we have these issues to a great degree, is that we don't relax. So that's a relaxation tool. The backrest is a wonderful thing. And then when you're working at the computer, so you'd want to have, and this is like, I don't know, I'm a laptop user and I'm guilty of this myself, is that you want to have your laptop screen separate from the keyboard, because you'll never be able to get good alignment without that separation, because you need the monitor to be about at the eye level or just a little bit below. And then you need the keyboard to be so that your upper arms are approximately straight up and down. You do not have to be perfect, but they kind of anatomically, they hang from the shoulder girdle. So here's this thing that is like a yoke that slips over your head, and it doesn't technically do that. It's how we are made, but there's this yoke. There's a clavicle, the collarbone, and the shoulders and back, and the arm kind of hangs from there. So it would hang straight down normally. And we don't need to press the arms against the sides of the body either. So that's going to hang vertically down as well. And, when we have the forward head or the rounded kyphosis posture, they're going to be forward. So these are things that we work on gradually to try to get to the point where we have arms that hang down vertically. And I've seen so many things around both people that are worried and quote unquote experts. It's like, you should position your arms so they're straight down. And it's like, we have had years and years of contracting our muscles without releasing them. And we have had years and years of kyphosis and hunchback posture. And you're telling me I have to position myself like this. That's correct. It's just not human to do it that way. So then the elbows would be approximately 90 degrees or maybe a little bit more. And then you want the keyboard, the wrist and the fingers and the hands are an extension of that forearm, and the keyboard should land right under the fingers, nice and comfortable. The best and least expensive way to accommodate that is to put a keyboard tray under your desk. And then that way it lowers the surface that you're keying on. And you can still have your monitor high at the level of your eyes approximately, or a little bit lower. So then that becomes good alignment, the way the ergonomists tell us to do it.
Got it. Yeah, I also, what I've found, I have like a lift for my laptop that I set on. So it's like this much higher. So my laptop's at the proper height. So then my keyboard can sit on the desk. And I think that's a pretty good angle for me. So again, I've been thinking about this for years and have been playing with different options to try to figure it out. But yeah, that's super helpful. And I feel like even, again, I've learned kind of the basics of this before, but I feel like even as you're going through it, I'm learning and checking in. And even I think the first thing you mentioned, or one of the first things you mentioned about your back and pelvis floor is like I realized I was doing I have good upper posture, but it causes my back to not align with the back, or with the back of the chair. So I was kind of pushing forward, and I noticed in the moment too that my lower back was starting to hurt because I wasn't even like relaxing my low back. It was like pushing a little forward, and it's like, oh, I'm curving my back by trying to keep my shoulders up.
So tell me your definition of your upper body has good alignment, like you were just saying.
Yeah, so like my shoulders are good. I'm good at like keeping them up and back, but I think when I'm doing that, it's sort of like pushing my chest out, and then my low back is like curving, or my back is kind of curving away from the lumbar support.
Okay,
so I wasn't even touching it. And I just noticed that as you were sharing it, it's like, oh, I can still have my shoulders back, but kind of relax my low back instead of like trying to push everything out. And I didn't even know I was doing that.
This shoulder down, I mean, it's what I teach beginners, because most people are like this and they don't even have a clue they're doing it. So I'll tell people you want your shoulders down, but there's the anatomy here in the shoulder girdle is more complex than that. And so I won't go into that today, but one thing you could do, and you may already be doing this, I don't know if you're still strength training, but you want to work the lower trapezius muscle. Do you know that muscle?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so it's kind of right back here. I don't know if you can see me.
Oh, okay.
So you could do things like even just really simple things, like just while you're at your desk even, or you could take 1 pound weights and just do like a W or a Y, and then, or you could take your arms in a Y and move them back. And you want to be up on the top of those sitting bones if you're going to do it sitting. But that I have found in my own journey has made so much difference. Everything else gets to relax. My shoulders relax, my front relax, my abdominal. I don't get so tight in the, when you get all stressed, you're all tight. So it just kind of relaxes, which helps me become less stressed out. So it's a really good muscle.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah.
And so we kind of mentioned definitely like the shoulders are a great place or a common place that people get tension when they're sitting at their desk all day. I know that, again, before I started learning about all of this, that was something when I was kind of checked out from my body all day. That was one of my big ones too, is I would hold my tension up. My shoulders were up. I was like typing like this, I can feel tension in my arms and in my chest and like my forehead, and kind of straining my eyes sometimes. Like that's where I notice a lot of the tension. And then as we just talked about, low back too. So are there other common areas that you see, or parts of the body that you see people come to you with tension from sitting all day or from being stressed?
Well, yes, just what you were mentioning, like head and neck and face and eyes, and also wrists and hands. So I think it's worth doing something like this, a couple
Mm,
30 seconds a day.
yeah.
I just love this. I'm like I want to do it right now too.
Yeah.
I get
Like,
really,
like,
especially I'm left-handed, so it's like my left hand gets super tight.
yeah.
And that actually can help your shoulders too.
Mm,
It
yeah.
helps mine.
That feels
I
good.
said I shouldn't say yours, but it does help mine. Just I don't know even how that works, but I've been having some shoulder issues, like putting my seatbelt on, even like when you do it the correct way. It is so painful. And then I started just working on this, and like 70% of my pain was gone. So
Wow.
amazing how, and that's what I mean by the body is like this, this connected parts that connect to make a whole. And it's not always the place that we have the pain or the issue that is the thing that's going to help correct it, because of the way the body, all the parts and the things and the physiology, everything's interconnected.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other thing is, yeah, this head on neck. So when we have the hunchback posture, gravity day in and day out is working on us, and we haven't even thought about this, and we get really tight in here, and then we kink the back of the neck to see the monitor. We might even crane forward. We lose the sense, the body awareness of where the head sits on the neck.
Oh.
So in general, it's at the level of the eyes and the ears.
Hmm.
And so really the head should be like an extension of the spine that's coming up from the rib cage. And so many of us, it's way forward. And that
Hmm.
is definitely computer work that's causing that,
Definitely. Yeah.
generally.
Yeah. So there's a lot of parts of our bodies to check in with all throughout the day. But I love how much you've been emphasizing grace too. That's something that I always talk about too when it comes to learning new habits. It's like you're not going to be able to just change your daily habits overnight, especially
Right.
going from like a lot of people, it's like going from 0 to 100. Like you have, especially, hunchback and you're hunched over all day and then you're trying to have this like perfect 90-degree angles everywhere in your body, that's probably going to be hard to do overnight. So giving yourself
Yeah.
grace, I like that as a good
Yeah.
takeaway for people too.
And I think that, the brain as the master controller of posture, it doesn't respond well to, like, I call it punch powing. I gotta have good posture. I'm gonna go to the gym.
Mm.
That stuff, the brain, you would think your brain is really slow and dumb, but it's not. It just needs gentle, repeated suggestions that are correct.
Hmm.
Doesn't even have to be take a lot of time. It could take, once you know what you're doing, do 10 seconds and get a result.
Yeah, it's like loving
And if you do that,
nudges instead of like the strict must do better and you're
right,
terrible. It's just like a little
exactly.
nudge, like, don't forget about this. Try that right now. And it's okay if
Yeah,
it only lasts a few seconds and come back again
that,
later.
yeah. And so, and yeah. So I also use breathing. And so that is something people, I love this. So when I adapted my pain work for people at computers, I really wanted something that they could do while they were working, because that's where, like, if you're not somebody that insists on getting up and moving, and your lifestyle isn't movement, you're going to have an excuse like, don't bother me. I've literally had people yell at me, don't bother me with that.
Ooh,
So I have breathing techniques, that are also great. So I don't know if you'd like me to demonstrate one, but
yeah, yeah. I was
yeah,
actually gonna ask that next if you have something that we could practice and do in the moment and give
sure.
give people some advice of what we can do in the moment when you're just sitting at your desk and
Yeah.
something that can help ease the tension in our bodies.
So this one is for upper body especially, and it's called hissing, and it's something you've done probably a million billion times in your life, but I put parameters on it so that we can get the result of relaxing the face and the eyes, relaxing the neck, and getting the brain fog out of there.
Mm.
And so again, brain as master controller of posture and brain of master controller of everything. Its job really is to keep us from danger. It doesn't care about the Excel spreadsheet, just so we're clear on that.
What is my spreadsheet? No.
Uh, yes, so we want to give space and grace to the fact that I'm going to demonstrate and we can do it. And for many people, you might want to try this at home right before you go to sleep, more times, like 8 to 15 times. And that way, that's giving the brain this repeated, gentle, accurate experience so that when you go back to the desk and do it, you'll start getting the results pretty quickly. So you may or may not get results with 1 or 2 tries here. Also, if anybody has any kind of medical condition where you get dizzy, or if you're going to go drive, or you're going to go to an important meeting and you're just trying this for the first time, that one's iffy, but the others you should be careful and ask your doctor, okay? Because it's, we just don't want to make anybody feel bad.
Yeah.
So the parameters are I think hissing, I think of snakes. So we are not going to be snakes. So it's not. It's a long, slow, lazy hiss, as passive as letting the air out of a tire. So you basically don't do anything but, put your tongue at the back of your top teeth very lightly. And on an exhale, you're going to just let the air out. And at the end of that, we do not force that last bit of air out. There are many breathing techniques and some of them do that, but not this one. We're encouraging relaxation. So we want to assemble ourselves in as good as posture as we know how. So feet flat, toes pointed forward, sitting on top of the sitting bones. And then take a nice deep inhale. Don't stress about how deep, but just something that's comfortable. Let air come in and nourish your cells. And on the exhale, you're going to put your tongue at the back of your top teeth, and it just is simply a long, slow, lazy hiss. Not to force anything. It's like it's 100 degrees out and you've just, you were charged with cooking all of the stuff that had to get cooked and your air conditioner broke and you're just ready to relax. That's how relaxed you should be when you do a hissing. Okay, let's try it again. So inhale, take air into your world, and exhale. You can even close your eyes if you like. Letting whatever tension that arises, just let it go. Let it fly away. It doesn't want to be there, probably. That's why it's arising. And you don't want it there, so why not let it go away? And then one more time, inhale, taking that nourishing oxygen into your world. And exhale, nice and lazy, no place to be, nothing to accomplish, no obstacles. Letting the shoulders drop if that's what they want to do. Letting the face relax, letting the neck relax.
Like, wow, I already feel calmer and I could tell myself when I was trying or doing the exhale and the hissing, it's almost like I had to hold back because my instinct is to just do it quickly and it's like rushing. And I think that's just like the hustle, right? Of the work mentality of go, 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 and everything has to be done as fast as possible. So it was almost like a challenge to do it slowly, but I like that. It felt really good.
Good. Yeah. And this is definitely kind of why I like to have these techniques while people are working, because they're so subtle that almost nobody is going to recognize that you're doing something different. So you're pretty free to select your self-care as you work.
Yeah.
And it's the exact opposite of what creates that stress and tension that people are complaining about these days. The burnout, the burnout, this, stressful events, whatever. So, and if you have burnout, which is kind of more of a chronic condition, this is great. You can put yourself on a schedule. I'm going to do hissing right before, lunch, and then I'm going to do it at 3:00. I know so-and-so is going to come in and stress my day out. I'm going to do it right before he shows up and right after, and just keep those repetitions going. You'll change the whole way that you will very slowly change to be more relaxed,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure for people in an office, you're thinking, oh, this might be weird to do at my desk. But if that feels weird or uncomfortable, like go to a meeting room, again, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is, go to the bathroom, go outside, get some sunshine while you're at it. I'm sure that would be really helpful. Like how to make it not feel weird, not feel uncomfortable, but make it
Right.
realistic for you. Like whatever makes sense for you, however you can make it comfortable for you, and just try it.
And even if you just did one breath, you could just be the person that's closing her eyes for a second and exhaling in a way that's not noticeable, so just even half a breath. Again, if you do it before you go to sleep, like 8 times, 1 or 2 nights, then the results of the technique are more accessible. And by the way, I've had so many clients tell me, clients who are in pain that they could not get to sleep and they could not stay asleep. They did this and they were like gone for the night very quickly. So it's also good if you have sleep problems,
Wow,
you
love
know?
that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we've
Yeah.
talked about alignment, we've done an exercise here, and we have I know there's been a ton of other examples along the way of how to like, check in with ourselves throughout the day. But any other like positive habits that you think people need to be focusing on in their day to day when they're sitting at a desk to help them reduce stress on our bodies?
Well, I'd say move, if you can. Research shows us the sitting is the new smoking research, which has been going on for like 20 or 25 years, shows us that um, even, if we can break the day up into regular movement. So ideally, it would be 10 minutes of whole body movement, like yoga or walking or stair climbing. It doesn't always happen, but just getting up and down off your chair,
Mm.
ideally every 20 minutes, but even if it was just once an hour, that is going to likely will help protect from future degenerative disease like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, etc.
Wow.
So that's another area that I give talks on and stuff. But it's just if we just again park our bodies because we need to use our minds. The body, we are not nourishing our heart. We're not circulating the blood. We're just not giving the tissues what they need to restore and repair and remain healthy. So it's so important to just say, this kind of requires a discipline. It's not like those techniques I just showed you where you could slip them in. You need to say, I'm going to do this 3 times a day. I'm going to get up and do 5 to 10 minutes of some kind of movement.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I know it's sounds easier than it is because even since
Yes.
we first talked about this a few weeks ago, I know I mentioned that was something that's hard for me to do and that I would always or lately I've been kind of building up walks in my head of like, oh, it has to be 30 minutes and I'm going to change and do workout clothes in case I get sweaty and I make it more of a challenge for myself when I mean, I love walking and I love doing my 30-minute walks, but for something like this, it needs to just be something really quick, even 5-10 minutes, and do it more often instead of like building it up in my head and then never doing it because oh, I'm quote unquote so
Right.
busy I can't possibly walk away for 30 minutes. It's like no, we all have 5 minutes throughout our day, at least twice, hopefully more than that, to just step away, just do laps, even if you're working from home. That's something I'm trying to do. I was doing this morning knowing I was going to be talking to you about this. It's like, oh, I have a break between meetings this morning. Let me go do a few laps throughout the house just to like get up and move. And that it felt really good and was really energizing too. And I think that's something we get in our heads of, oh, we're so busy, we can't stop working. But really, when you take that quick pause and do something like this, it can energize you more than if you were just keep powering through.
Oh, that's so true. And again, research shows they've tried all these different types of things. Like first it was standing desks, and then it was going to the gym a million times a day, and all that. And they found that for the average person, uh, this idea of breaking the day up with movement, just 5 to 10 minutes. 10, I think, is ideal.
Mm.
But just that little bit several times in a day will actually reduce the biomarkers that say a person is at risk for those kind of diseases. And the
Mm.
other things did not. Going to the gym, you have to do like an hour every single day at the gym um, in order to make up the fact that you're sitting. So that's a lot. Most people can't do that.
Wow.
So, and winter came and it went away, but I'll be back in the spring. But when I do it, I do that 10-minute walk and I feel I'm not tired, I'm not sweaty, and I'm like revving to get back to work again. So it
Yeah.
is really helpful. It's just different than what a lot of people think they're obligated to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I get my best ideas when I'm away from my desk and I'm outside walking or just, walking through the house even. It's like, oh, something new pops in my head that might not have popped in my head if I was just powering through at my laptop. And
Exactly.
it happens all the
Yeah.
time. And yeah, and one other interesting example I wanted to share too is when or how I kind of first learned about this journey that I had mentioned with you too, is that it was like 8 years ago, I think it was, and it definitely relates to what you're just saying about going to the gym all the time, is that I was doing a boot camp, like kind of a hardcore boot camp class every like 3 days a week in the mornings, and I was working from home at the time, and I was like, oh, I'm so healthy, I'm in such good shape. But I was working from home, and oftentimes I would spend most of the afternoons working from my couch. And I'm sharing this as a cautionary tale because in the moment it feels so good, and it's almost like rebellious, like, yeah, I can work from my couch. This is so great. What a good life I have. And then over some time, I noticed I was having some knee pain and low back pain, and it was really bizarre. So I didn't know what was causing it. And again, I'm like, I'm in such good shape. Like, this is weird. And I was like mid-20s. Like, why do I have knee pain already? I'm too young for this. And I ended up working with a chiropractor and physical therapist, and they realized, or we learned, that my glutes were no longer firing because I was sitting so much and had such bad posture. So I had to do like physical therapy exercises to re-engage my glute muscles, or my butt muscles essentially. And it was like my low back and my knees were like overcompensating for my glutes not firing. And I'm not giving medical advice, and I don't know,
Right.
any more detailed on what they had told me for this example. But I think you mentioned that earlier, sometimes your pain isn't actually from, the muscle that is hurting. And that was my exact situation, is that, oh, it was actually my glutes didn't hurt or anything, but they were the ones causing pain throughout my body. And it was weird because I was doing boot camp classes, like I was doing lunges, I was doing squats all the time. So I thought
Yeah.
my glutes were engaged, but it was my other muscles that were overcompensating for it. And
Huh.
yeah, that was my big wake up call to
Wow.
no longer work
Yeah,
from
because
my couch.
I was going to ask you, didn't you do, squats and stuff in the boot camp, but I guess you weren't engaging them. And that's an example. If somebody goes to a workout, but that doesn't, that's one of the things, it's not affecting you the way you need to. It's not balancing out what you do sitting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so basically the glutes are one of the muscles in the pelvis. And so they're one of the big things they do is help support posture, because whatever is stacked on top depends on what is below it for support. So if
Mhm.
the muscles are balanced around the pelvis, in this case, the hip joint, then whatever is on top of the hip joint that needs the hip joint for a foundation is also going to have a good foundation. And so then that's less pain because the muscles up above don't have to tweak and turn and shut on and off
Mhm.
and do all this stuff to try to keep you upright.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
so
we like
fascinating.
glutes.
Yeah, so this is, yeah, what caused my fascination with this topic for the first time like 8 years ago, of, oh, working from home. And you think, oh, I can just, work from the couch, and if I go to the gym it will cancel it out. And I am living proof that that's not true. So I wanted to share that cautionary tale. And yeah, and one other thing I wanted to ask you too is, do you see, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about this connection between our posture and being productive. And I know you mentioned like our brains only care about danger and not our Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And is there any deeper theory behind that, of how you see those connected?
Yeah, I mean, basically what happens is the brain is looking out for us. But our species is like millions and millions of years old. So this developed, I'm not an expert in how many years it was, but it's a really long time ago when this started happening. And so we have the technological age now, and we had the industrial revolution before that. And these things happened really quickly. And our brains have not yet adapted to the new way that we live. And personally, I'm saying thank God, because I wouldn't want to I love having a body and moving. And I wouldn't want to say, oh, that's no longer necessary. Let's not even have that in our being.
Mhm.
But so basically, when we're looking at this Excel spreadsheet or writing the chapter of our book that we're so excited about, we're hunkered down and we're hunched over and we're mesmerized by the screen, and we get this posture. Maybe we get the neck ache, or maybe we had an injury that in a joint that we have spasms that guard that joint from moving too much. These are all things this would be an example of the thing the brain does to prioritize our physical well-being over the Excel spreadsheet. So when something happens, you get the neck kink or your back aches or whatever, the brain says, I have to send some TLC, this is my terminology,
Mhm.
to the area to protect myself. And so where is it going to get the resources from? Somewhere in the body, right? It's so doesn't care about that Excel spreadsheet. So it's going to take energy. I don't know what it takes, probably fluids and blood flow and nutrients. And it's take it all and do what it has to do and bring it to the spasm or bring it to the neck kink or the back or wherever it needs to go, because that's more important. And so then what happens to your focus? You don't have as much energy, right? So that's why we get brain fog. And I think everybody knows that when we have brain fog, we're not as productive.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never thought about it that way before, but I love to hear that too. And it kind of goes back to that idea I mentioned too of sometimes when I'm out for a walk, I get my best ideas. That would make sense. Like the blood flow is flowing where it needs to be going, and you're a bit more energized, and you're not, I don't know, I guess your brain flow isn't compromised by like poor posture and stress and all the tension in your body. It's interesting.
And when you've got the hunchback, I mean, this limits how much air you can take in too. So then that's that much less oxygen for the brain also in that way too.
This is really fascinating. I feel like we could talk all day about this.
I know.
And
I love it.
as we're wrapping up, do you have one more like quick exercise we could go through and practice and then share with everyone else?
Sure. So we could do one that I love for eyes. And it is one that helps you to rebalance the head in the good alignment. Now, if you're prone to embarrassment, I'll give you a modification, but it does require putting your fingers just a little bit inside the ears. Okay. So, but you don't have to. You can take it out a little bit or you can put it on the flap. So I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like, and then I'll walk you through what we do. So just do this. And then it's just like this. Okay. And so when you do that, it's not about jamming your finger in the ear. It's about, we call this tactile aid, which means we want to develop some body awareness of the exact location where the head sits on the neck, which is at about the level of the eyes and ears. So that's perfect there.
Okay.
And just for your sake, for your shoulders, you don't have to have your elbows sticking out. You might want to drop them. That's just going to be a little easier,
Yeah.
And so what we want to do here is, again, the head sits on the neck right about that level where your fingers are. So we want to kind of take a moment to close our eyes if possible, take a nice deep breath, and just place your focus in between your two fingers for like 3 breaths. And I'll give you the minute for that. I'll do it halfway on mine. Just letting everything relax, letting go of it, and focusing between your fingers. Now, to me, this is so relieving because I almost never focus there, right? And that is an anatomically correct place where one bone, the head, meets the next bone, the top of the neck. So we want to tune into these places for good alignment. And so this joint, the movement that it does is this kind of nodding. So it's not a huge jamming, but it's the idea of taking the chin towards the neck. Doesn't have to go all the way there. And in turn, that slides the neck up, that slides the back of the skull up. And when you're sitting correctly on your sitting bones and you do that, I don't know about you, but I get a wonderful stretch in my back muscles. You have to be in that good alignment piece to do it, but it feels so good.
Yeah.
So it's just, focusing here and then doing that nodding. And things just, once you do these a few times, the tension starts to drop automatically. And I think it's because we're really focusing on correct anatomy and not just do this and do that and get strong and stretch that. Those are important, but they're not going to give you this subtle, deep, chronic release, so.
Yeah. I think that's my big takeaway from our conversation is the checking back into your body more often throughout the day. So you're not just on, checking out for 8 hours a day plus from your body, and like, hey, start to listen to it, start to notice the tension. And if nothing else, like my example earlier too is like, okay, check in when you're hungry, when you're thirsty. Like those are obviously the bare bone basics, but then let's get to even that next level of, okay, where is there tension in my body, or where am I tensing up, where am I feeling stress, and how can I do some quick exercises or just different even breathing techniques to just release that tension. And there's a lot more in our control that I think we don't give ourselves credit for. Again, we just kind of check out and we're like, it's just
Yes.
busy. I'm just stressed. And this is how my body feels when it's stressed. It's like, no, you don't have to feel like that. Let's do better. It's okay.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be this extra thing on your plate, right?
Mm,
I mean, a little bit it does when you're figuring out how to do it well and no, you know, but once you get it, it's just something you slip into your day. And
yeah.
people usually don't notice, you know, they're focused on themselves mostly. So
Yes. Yeah.
use that to your advantage, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I
Strategic.
think, yeah, I think you mentioned earlier too, this idea of, having a post-it at your desk or something as a reminder. I think that's a great takeaway for people too, is like, just check in with yourself throughout the day, have some reminders, and maybe choose one thing to start with. And then you can gradually
Exactly.
continue to, improve over time too. So don't set yourself up for failure. Don't make it this big daunting task. It's like, start with one thing. Is it your shoulders? Is it your back? Is it your feet? Like, what's the number one thing you're going to start with today, and start today?
Yeah, that is absolutely, you're right on with that.
That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And how can listeners get in touch with you, or are there any resources you want to share with listeners today?
Yes, I have a little ebook. It's called Pain Free at Your Desk in 5 Minutes. And it goes over some of the things we talked about when being in good alignment and a few exercises. And it gives you a posture checklist and a few other things. So that's available. And then I have so some of the techniques we learned, this one and the hissing, techniques like that is 5, I call them neuroposture techniques you can do to conquer your burnout or, just kind of feel better at the desk. So it's called Posture Scan for Desk Workers. And then you can get me on LinkedIn. So it's just linkedin.com/in. I guess they have it. And then my name, ANNEASHER. And I think those are the big ones right now. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, and I'll definitely put those in the description for everyone to make it easy to find you. Yes, thank you everyone for listening today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like or subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. It really helps new people find the podcast and in turn get the support that they're looking for as well. And that's it for today. We'll see you in the next episode.